This is the ultimate PinSound package. No, seriously, that's what it's called. This package will turn your pinball machine into a rocking, shaking beast with volume as loud as you want. And I'm going to show you what it looks like, how to install it, and what it can do. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to install is the PinSound board. This is the brain that does everything, so let's start with that. You're going to need to remove your translight or back glass. Alright, we now have complete access to what we need to do now. The next thing we're going to be doing is removing the soundboard. It's this board right here when it comes to WPC. So this is what we're going to be removing. In order to access this, we need to get these ribbon cables out of the way. So we're going to be pulling up on these. You may have to do a little bit of wiggling. Shouldn't require too much. If you need to take pictures to remember where these connections go, feel free to do so, guys. And that one should just hang down like that. That one can hang down there too. So now the ribbon cables are out of the way. Now we have these two. This one right here, and then one up here. So we're going to just pull these out. All right, so they have been unplugged. Now we need to loosen up the 4 screws that are located on every corner of this board in order for it to slide out. Just requires a Phillips. Just a few turns, don't need to take the screws completely out. They have designed this board so that way you can do this. Easy peasy. All right, we're just giving it a few turns, should be able to lift up and come right out if you don't have a sticker in the way down here. Alright, soundboard has been removed. Now this board is universal, meaning it can be going into a WPC 89, WPC DCS, Data East, and like Williams System 11. And in your box you will find these right here that shows you how to modify the board step by step in order for you to make sure that you do this correctly. Since we are doing WPC DCS, this is the board I'm going to be using. So if I was to hook up the board how it is right now, just out of the box, you're going to notice that, hey, top screws work, but the bottom screws are not going to work. That's just not going to do it, Cary. Yep, that's why we use the accompanied bar right here It's going to go right here, and then you got a bottom one that would go right in here. Like that. But in order for it obviously to work, we have to mount our soundboard to these two right here. So we're going to take these out, and we're going to do that now. All right, I'm just going to dump this little bag of goodies right there, so I'm able to easily access all of those, and I could filter through each one through what. All my washers in one area, spacers in another. You can do this how you see fit, obviously. What we're going to have to do is get a screw into this top one right here. But before we do that, we need a washer. This is where it's going to take some agility, guys. This small hardware like this. So washer into that hole. Now we need to use the spacer, and the spacer is going to go on like that, and that's pretty much finger tight. Now I'm going to do it to this side over here as well, so I can install the top one all in one go. Alright, so I've got my screws and my spacers on my top portion. Now I'm going to want to go ahead and get 2 more screws with washers on them as well. Alright, now that we've got our screws right there, I'm going to turn this over, and we're going to be working on this portion now. Notice that you got to make sure your orientation is correct, guys. Like so. That way I know that the screw is going to go in, and then it's going to slide up and lock in place. So let's get a screw and a washer. Have this resting in place if I can. I typically put it in there first. Get your screwdriver in place where you're ready to go. And line it up. That one's in there. Another washer, another screw. Alright. Make sure we get that as tight as we can. Alright, that's on there. Very nice. And it's rinse and repeat on the bottom portion. And there we go, guys. Board is put together. Now it's time to slide it into the game. Now all we gotta do is slide this board into place. And then we'll screw it in. Don't over tighten it, boys. It don't take too much to get this thing locked in place. No wiggling around. And then you can go about reconnecting your cables just as you did when disconnecting them, using your pictures if necessary. It's indicated right here. It's going to be a little bit lower than your factory board, but it is indicated where that one goes on the board. It's keyed. This one goes right here. And these are going to be a little bit further over. Actually, they go up here. That's what it is. But in order for them to reach, I've got to finagle some cables around. Alright, get some slack in these things. There we go. We are now in position, but I want to say whenever we go to hook up the 2.1 stereo, I believe we are going to be removing these again. But if you do not have the accessory to do so, then don't worry about it at this time. Alright, the board is officially all hooked up. Now that I've got everything all hooked up, let's turn the machine on just to see what this thing looks like. Make sure it all lights up. Now, as you can see, looks like we've got our voltage and everything that it requires right here. There's no USB or anything in there as of this time, so it's not going to have anything. Ooh, that's different. That's cool. I mean, we're never going to see it because the back glass or translight's going to be on, but that's new to the PinSound Plus board, or the new generation.
The USB flash drive is not present.
Yep, see, the board will let you know if it does not detect the USB drive that goes in here. So technically this machine has no sound to it. But as you can see, the board and the sound and everything works accordingly. No smoke, no fire. Now that we've got our board installed, let's look at the speaker panel and start getting our speakers installed. Now, if you've already seen your speakers, then you're going to realize that, all right, my speaker matches the size of this one, but WTF. So it's a good thing that PinSound has incorporated this little piece right here. So this is going to give you the ability to utilize the current screw holes right here for where your old speaker would mount, by giving you new screw holes for where your new speaker will be going in place. So in order to remove these speakers, I need to either, one, bust out my soldering iron to loosen the solder so that way the wires are no longer connected to it, or I can just snip them, because I'm not going to be using these wires anymore anyways, because I got the 2.1 stereo wiring kit. So these cables will no longer be needed. But that depends on your machine, and if you want to make it to where it's backwards compatible to go back to the original form if you sell your game and stuff like that. How savvy you are depends on what you want to do here. I'm going to be desoldering these. That way I can, if I wanted to, that I could return this machine easily back to the original form. So let's get started on that. Alright, this baby's just about up to temperature. And 750, there we go. So going to be loosening up this solder. Alright, that speaker has been desoldered. One more. There we go. We are done with the soldering iron. Now we remove these old speakers. There's that speaker removed. This is your grounding cable. We'll throw that to the side. Now that speaker's been removed. Now, like I said, we're not going to be using this cable anymore. I probably should have desoldered that, but I guess I technically don't need to. What I may end up doing is just taking this away, the cable all together, and then I'll just like zip tie it up, and then I'll keep it somewhere safe, so that way this thing's just no longer in the way at all. I'm going to put this screw back in place. I don't know if it's going to be in the way or not. Alright, now let's get this cable completely removed here. Alright, so I've got the original speaker cable removed. I didn't want to record that because it took a little bit of time to finagle this cable through all of this mess right here from this board. But that's where it goes, is from your speakers all the way up through this stuff, around and up here. You can get that. Now you no longer have these extra cables on your back panel, and you could store these somewhere. Make sure you label them so that way you know what they are. That lines up like this, but I'm gonna have to remove this screw that I wasn't going to at first. So we'll remove that. And I'm gonna have to remove this that held on to the old hardware. So let's get that out of the way. And now that lines up just right. Now I should be able to utilize the same screws that were in the previous speaker. Will I? Yep, alright. I must be off just a little bit for this top one. Or am I in there? Right, we're good. Alright. That's as snug as a bug in a rug. Alright, we should be ready for our speaker now. Alright, the orientation I'm going to be doing this speaker is my connections towards the DMD. And that should line up like that. And inside your package you will see the speaker screws. Get all 4 of those up here. And then we should be able to screw these into place. I'm not going to tighten them down all the way just yet, because I'm probably going to have to move this around just a little bit to get perfectly centered. But this is going to make sure that this isn't going to go anywhere while I'm screwing the others in. Alright, now that I've got all 4 screws in, I can tighten them down all the way. That speaker is going nowhere. Let's do the other side. And this other side is going to be a little easier because I don't have to do any kind of modifications like the plastic piece over there. Once again, using the old screws from the previous speaker. Now I'm going to install my grounding cable back up here on this one. Alright, that one's all snug. So now we have our front speakers all installed. Now, let's work on the wiring for them. So here is the 2.1 stereo connector and the wiring that goes along with it. These go to all 3 of your speakers. Now, you'll notice that all of them are labeled accordingly. The longest one obviously is going to be going down to your center speaker. It says it right here on both of these wires, center. So I'm just going to go ahead and just feed that down here. Alright, now these other 2 are shorter, but they are also labeled. This one says left, positive and negative. So put that on the left. And this one says right, positive and negative. You're also going to notice that the connectors are different sizes. You're going to see up here, these are the size of the connectors. So it's going to be really hard for you to screw this up. Took a little finagling on that one. And then we'll put it on this other one. I'm going to bend it out just a little bit. Now, if for whatever reason you break off these little tabs by putting these things on, because I could see it happening, then you can solder these wires. You'll have to clip off the connectors, but you could solder the wires directly to these ends right here. Just make sure you have them, because evidently they are polarity based, because there's a positive and negative. So that's how you connect them. Let's work on the other side. A little wiggling back and forth. Bam. We're in there. Speakers are now connected. Now all we need to do is connect our Molex. Alright, so this one other little bitty small one right here that I have not disconnected yet. This goes to our center speaker. So this is going to be doing nothing. You could whittle it all the way through and take it completely out if you want to, or you could just tuck it behind this in case you want to go back to original in the future. I plan to eventually do a complete restoration on this, so I'm just going to like tuck it in right here for right now. And all you're going to do is that this cable right here that you've got in here is going to go in right here where it says stereo 2.1 speakers. It's keyed in, connected just like that. So now we've already really improved the quality of the sound. And what you can do with all the slack that you see right here, if you wanted to, you can feed it through just like you have before, zip tie them together, kind of neatly all package it up. Alright guys, for right now we are done with the back box, I want to say. We are more than likely going to have to get in here again. I don't know, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but we'll put this all back together. Now we are on to the subwoofer. We need to obviously remove the old one, but before we could put the big one in there, because this thing is little bitty in comparison to what we're about to put in there. Now here's the wire that we fed through earlier. And we'll just tuck this one up underneath behind there because we know we're not going to be using that anymore. And then we'll just have these in place, ready to go for install. Now let's get the big subwoofer. I mean, my word, there is a bit of a difference here, guys, when it comes to the size of this stuff. And wow. So as you may already noticed, this thing is bigger, beefier. It's got some really nice soft cushion padding all the way around this thing, whereas before you definitely didn't have that. Yeah, a little bit of a difference, but this is not going to just mount directly on there. Set that right there. That's why you also get this, the same thing you had over there for your right speaker up top. You just gotta get the holes lined up to the previous screws, which may take a little finagling, but bam, there it is. Now that that's in place, then I should be able to mount this in here and then screw it down. Alright, so I've got my screws. I'm going to be putting the washer and nut back on this. Make sure this is stable. And we'll just tighten these down just a little bit. Alright, that is secure. Alright, now we're going to get it to where the connections were facing this direction. I believe that should line up with the holes. Now, once again, I'm not tightening them down all the way just to make sure I've got enough room to wiggle around. I'm just kind of getting them tightened in place. Alright, we got one in place. Yeah, that's on there nice and secure. Man, that's a beast. One more time, guys, just to show you the difference in that speaker. Wow. And then just like the other ones, connect the connectors. They are sized appropriately. And there you go. We now officially have stereo 2.1. So the next thing we're going to be doing is installing the shaker motor, and in your paperwork you will find this right here. I'm going to be cutting out on the dotted line like it says and using this as a blueprint / template on where I need to drill holes for this shaker motor to be mounted to the cabinet. Now the point of this is to make sure that whenever and wherever you install this, that you're going to have clearance all the way around, and you need to use the actual screw holes that they tell you right here exactly, because that's how it's going to mount in. Now I'm thinking I'm going to mount this to about right there. Should be able to get everything around that. So all I got to do is that I'll tape this down. I'll clean the area real well so that way it'll actually stick down. I'm going to tape this down, bust out the drill, and drill some holes through the cabinet. Alright, I've got my tape on here. Find exactly where I want it. Make sure that tape's all nice and tacked down. I don't want it moving. Alright, time to drill. Alright, so here we are playing mechanic. And there's not many times that you're going to need to use a hammer on a pinball machine. But whenever you're doing something with T-nuts, chances are you might be having to. Well, on the cabinet at least. Playfield, there's other methods and I recommend you use those. So what I'm doing is putting the T-nut where it needs to go, right there in the hole. And you see it's nice and snug so it sticks in there. And then give it a few whacks, and there you go. You got a T-nut installed, ready to go. In case I didn't show you what a T-nut was, it's this right here. It's got spikes, 3 of them, that go into the wood. Well, it's not real wood when it comes to a pinball machine. Alright, at least right here. This is MDF. That's birch. Anyways, alright. There we go. We have now got the bracket system and mounting system in place for the shaker motor. So once we screw that into this portion right here, it's going to anchor itself to this MDF right here, making it very sturdy. Alright, let's get off our back. Yep, I can. Alright, lever screwed in, T-nuts are in. Now we can get our shaker motor in place. You can set that down right there. Just try to line it up with the holes. That looks pretty dang good. Accompanied in with your shaker motor are 4 screws for mounting and 2 screws for the shield. And this is not a Phillips, this is my other tool. As per usual, I'm not bolting them all down tight yet until I get all 4 screws in there. Alright, all 4 screws are now in their holes, so I will be buckling this thing down pretty tight because this thing, if not, will rattle loose and tear up that MDF. So I'm securing this thing in by screwing this in really tight. That is pulling the T-nut up into the bottom of the cabinet, making it much more secure. That is on there nice. So now Yeah, that's gonna be shaking. Now I'll be utilizing my PinSound shaker power. Should be keyed accordingly, like that. I'm gonna toss it up here. I think that should make us to where we're done down here. So now I need to put the shield on that. Got the screw holes lined up. I'll take my remaining 2 screws. Alright, shaker motor is installed. It's looking good. So we're done with this. So now what I'm going to do now, get all my stuff out of here, and then we're going to lower the play field down and bring it forward so we can feed this power up to the back box. We're going back in there. Alright, we should be able to reach. This is our power cable for the shaker motor. And we can just feed this up through this direction. Probably better if I lower this down. Alright, once you're in this position, you want to grab the power cable that you just installed for this machine for the shaker motor. Then you're going to lower your speaker panel down so you have easy access and feed it through where the rest of your wire harness is going to. I'm just going to pull up to where I've got a good amount of it up here. That should be long enough to reach. And then I'm going to go ahead and raise my panel back up. Alright, let's get in the back box. Alright guys, I'm now installing the motion controller board. This is what tells the shaker motor what to do. So we have to have this. They recommend you mount it to like the side of the back box back here behind your back glass and everything. Probably a little higher up actually. But in order for me to really get it mounted, it's using these adhesive pads on these mounts. So I have to get these mounted on here first, and then I can clean its spot and then stick it to where I'm going to put it. But in order for them to actually be ready for the screws, I recommend putting them on in the screws first. It's not going to lie, it's a little tricky. Once you get it started, then get your screwdriver in there. And basically you're preparing this stand for the screw that you are about to insert into it. Now that that's prepped, we can pick this up, get a screw in there, use the stand, alright, so I've got that in there. Try to hold that steady. Alright, you'll know you have it all nice and tight whenever these things don't twist around. And then just do that to the other two. Alright, all 4 mounting stands are installed. And then we'll see where we're going to put this. Now, in the instructions, they recommend, like right here on the side. But I'm thinking I might be able to get away with putting it right here. I think I'm going to do that actually. Have it mounted right there. That looks pretty good. So I need to clean the surface area for these adhesive pads to really stick. They provide an alcohol prep pad. Now honestly, this prep pad is dry. I'm not sure if it's old or what, but this is not good. I don't know, might be old, might have been opened, but I'm gonna have to clean it myself. Alright, we should be ready to mount this thing. Mounting it with the word motion controller up. I'm thinking right there. And then I'm going to apply pressure on top of the screws, not on the board. That should be on there pretty good. Alright, now it's time to hook everything up to this board right here. Alright, inside your kit you will find multiple cables all labeled accordingly, and if you follow your instructions you will find out that EXT1 goes into the EXT1 port up here, and this says PinSound EXT1. I had to look at the instructions again. So it says PinSound EXT1. You have your EXT1, but you have an in and you have an out. This is going to be going into the in, which is the 4-pin connection that's on the left. So that puts that there. Alright, once you have that one, then you have this cable. And they're labeled. So this is shaker power input. This is keyed to go up here. And then it says J101. And J101 is this one right here. So this is going to go into J101. It is keyed. And then you'll plug your original J101 into this split connection right here. This. Alright, now all we got left is the shaker motor itself. And the power to your shaker motor goes right here, like that. Alright, currently it's set on low, and there's a medium and a high adjustment. I'm going to do medium. We'll just see how medium feels, and if I feel like it's enough, or if I want more, then I'll adjust it accordingly. But I'm going to set it to medium for right now. And it's your choice. You can go about putting your wires wherever you see fit to organize this a little bit better. Like I said, eventually I'm going to do a restoration on this, so I'm not too worried about getting it all pretty right now. Let's go over some of this board that I have not described yet. I mean, these right here, they're not just flashy lights, guys. These are knobs that you can adjust to increase or decrease your sub booster, equalizer, sub boost. I mean, you have all these right here, treble and everything, that you can toggle in real time as the game is playing to get it tweaked just the way you like it. So you've got all that you can play with. You can hook up an external subwoofer right here if you so want to. I mean, if you're really that hardcore for some bass, by all means, go for it. It's all about personal preference with this. And there's always something I love about a product is that if you can make it your own, yes. Now, if you go over here to this, you even have the option to hook up like, you know, lasers or like a smoke machine or whatever. This is what this right here is for, this relay machine. So in the Studio Pro software, you can program it to activate to certain things. So that's also a really nice perk with that. And that's going over the board right there real quick and in a hurry, giving you some more ideas of what all you can do. Yeah, so make it your own, guys. Now that we've got the PinSound equipment all in here, we're going to see what it sounds like. This is going to give you definitely an idea of the difference it makes. Sadly, when it comes to audio and the feeling you get while you're playing this game coming through the machine, you're not going to be able to get that through video. But I do have the Judge Dredd Capn mix on here. I have also gone through the files and adjusted the shaker motor accordingly. I will be doing some more tweaks on that because I do want to make some improvements, but I do definitely feel the difference. So let's start up a game. The first thing you're going to notice for those other PinSound users, if you have an early generation like I do, is that the speed at which it initializes the PinSound card and it's ready to play, I want to say it's probably cut in half the amount of time it takes. Here we go. I mean, technically the game only became playable maybe 2 seconds before the sound card was ready to go. So that's pretty damn good. Alright, let's start a game up.
Are you ready? You don't look ready. So what are my thoughts about the PinSound Ultimate Package? Let's start with cost. This product line is not cheap, but luckily, each of these products can be bought separately. So if you don't want to spend that much at one time, you can buy a portion every once in a while. Next up is quality. Top notch. These products are not on the cheap spectrum like I said earlier, but this is due to the quality behind it. The shaker motor can rattle your machine just on a medium setting. I'm honestly scared to see what it does on high. The subwoofer for the bottom of your cabinet is killer with bass. It almost feels like another shaker motor actually. Front speakers have the capability of being too loud. Luckily, you can adjust that. Product reliability. As a PinSound user for a couple of years now, I have had 0 failures. Once you hold this PinSound card, you will understand why. These boards are thick with high quality components. Now, what are the product capabilities? Pretty close to endless because you can really make your machine your own. By utilizing their PinSound Studio software, you can change any song or sound and adjust the shaker motor to every bit of it. Also, giving those of you hardcore fans the ability to wire up external enhancers such as smoke machines and lasers or other lights. You can even have multiple sound packages on one USB and swap to a different sound package at any time. So, for those of you out there that want more out of your game without changing the aesthetics, if you want the original music from your movie-related pins, if you want to feel your game, if you want to really hear your game to its fullest potential, this product line is for you.